I now call this Bryan Independent School District meeting to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. The time is 6 p.m. Welcome, everyone. Please turn off the sound on your mobile devices, and let's stand to recite the pledges. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. First on our agenda is public comment on agenda items. Citizens may make comments about topics relevant to district business. Topics should be limited to 3 minutes. Comments concerning specific student or personnel will be heard in closed session. We do not have any comments this evening, so we'll move to board member reports. First is Ms. Ruthie Waller with the Executive Committee update.
So our executive committee met 5/19 at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The members present, President Bryan, Vice President Benford, myself, Secretary Ginger Carabine, Norma Friddle, Dr. Brian Merrill, and Tommy Roberts. Was Barbara at that one? Okay. And we discussed the virtual academy. Ms. Carabine talked to us. The committee got to review the hybrid virtual model update for Mary Catherine Harris and the status of applications for the Bryan ISD Virtual Academy. Our budget was discussed with Ms. Friddle and Mr. Roberts. Ms. Friddle provided an update on the 26-27 budget development, much of which will be discussed tonight, and Ms. Friddle also shared compensation considerations that will be shared tonight. We discussed BISD property. Ms. Friddle provided an update for the former grounds building, and Mr. Mill talked about our strategic planning, overview of meetings, and information that will be also shared tonight. So that was easy.
Thank you. Next, our intergovernmental committee report from Ms. Felicia Benford.
So we met on May 18th, myself, Ms. Waller, and Ms. Carabine. Really what we talked about, and it's going to be quick because you've read about it in the news, they're having a lot of meetings discussing it, is that SpaceX project that's going over in Grimes County. So we were given some details that they know. They didn't want to release a lot of information because they're still working on a lot of details, but they did talk about, even though it being in Grimes County and that location, the overflow that would come to the other surrounding counties, what that would look like. They talked about infrastructure, jobs, the size, the massive size of that facility and what it's going to be. And so since then, I've been in 2 other meetings, and so it's going back and forth between their commissioners' court on what they should or shouldn't do and some decision making. And so really that was just it, to bring awareness, because people had been hearing about it and they wanted to briefly just say something about it to kind of calm the waters. So more details to come as they have their commissioners meeting next week to make some decisions on it.
Thank you. Information items. Our first information item, continuing our budget development series, Chief Financial Officer Norma Friddle.
Good evening, Mr. President, board members, Superintendent Carabine. Tonight we have reached the final topic in our budget development series. It's hard to believe that we began this work back in December. Since then, we have covered many aspects of school finance, and each topic has helped build a broader understanding of the budget process. As we revisit these concepts year after year, the connections will become stronger and our understanding will continue to grow. Tonight's topic is all about budget communication. Effective communication is critical before, during, and after the budget process. It promotes transparency, builds trust, and ensures our stakeholders understand how decisions are made and how resources are aligned to support our students. With that, let's dive into our final topic of communicating the budget. As I stated earlier, tonight's presentation focuses on the importance of budget communication throughout the school finance process. A budget is more than numbers on a spreadsheet. It is a communication tool that reflects the district's priorities, values, and commitments to our students, staff, and our community. Strong communication throughout the process helps build trust, transparency, collaboration, and better decision-making. One of the first and foremost important steps in budget communication is clearly communicating our budget calendar. This helps ensure that the board and leadership team understand the timeline, expectations, major decision points, and statutory deadlines. When everyone understands the budget process and timing up front, it creates alignment and it reduces confusion. It also allows for thoughtful discussion rather than rushed decision-making at the end of the process. The budget calendar becomes the roadmap for the entire budget development process. This year, we intentionally piloted portions of the budget process with a smaller group of campuses and departments before implementing district-wide changes. This allowed us to hear directly from the people closest to the work. We gained valuable feedback about the areas that needed clarity, where communication could improve, and where processes needed refinement. That feedback was critical because effective budget communication is not just about presenting information, it's about listening and adjusting based on stakeholder input. Budget communication cannot happen only at budget adoption. It must occur continuously throughout the year. The budget development series itself is a strong example of the teach pieces involved in school finance communication. Each session created opportunities to explain funding formulas, staffing consideration, compensation discussions, and operational challenges. The more communication that occurs throughout the process, the greater understanding and trust amongst our stakeholders. Transparency is essential in public education finance. School districts operate with taxpayer dollars, and stakeholders deserve clear explanations regarding how decisions are made and how resources are allocated. Transparent communication builds credibility and trust, especially during difficult financial periods. Even when decisions are challenging, stakeholders are more likely to support the process when they understand the why behind our decisions. At the center of every budget conversation should be students. Budget discussions can sometimes become highly technical, but it's important to consistently reconnect financial decisions back to student impact and district priorities. Whether discussing staffing, compensation, operational efficiencies, or program funding, the question should always be, how does this support students and student success? That focus helps guide meaningful and responsible decision-making. Constructive criticism and feedback are important parts of the budget process. No budget is perfect, and open dialogue helps improve both communication and planning. Feedback from campuses, departments, staff, leadership teams, and the board strengthens the overall process and helps ensure that decisions are informed and thoughtful. Strong budget communications create a culture where questions and collaboration are welcomed. So as we move toward the end of the budget cycle, communication remains critical. Final compensation Final compensation decisions must be clearly communicated to staff. Campuses and departments need to understand their final allocations so they can begin planning effectively for the upcoming school year. The final step is budget adoption, which formally concludes the development process and begins the implementation phase. So in closing, effective budgeting is one of the most important responsibilities in school finance. It ensures transparency, promotes collaboration, it strengthens trust, and ultimately leads to better decisions for students and the district as a whole. So here we are at the end of our budget development series. The only remaining step is the formal adoption of our budget. Over the past several months, we've had meaningful discussions about school finance, budget priorities, compensation, and operational efficiencies. While this series may be concluding, the work itself never stops. We will continue refining our processes, listening to our campuses and departments, and evaluating feedback from stakeholders to identify opportunities for improvement. We welcome new ideas and different perspectives because continuous improvement happens one step at a time. This process has been a tremendous learning opportunity for me professionally, and I sincerely appreciate the board's time, engagement, and thoughtful participation throughout this series. Thank you for the opportunity to share this journey with you. As always, I'm always available to answer questions.
Are you planning to go through this again next year? I don't mean, that's not a negative question. I think there's always benefit to revisiting these topics, not just for the board's understanding, but for community and staff. But is that your plan?
I certainly can. I actually started this journey, really it was just kind of an idea. I had a TASB toolkit, the infamous little catalog that we passed at most of our committee sessions, and it really was just born from there. It is something that I can continue to teach year after year if you feel that it may strengthen your understanding and make better connections to that. I think I'm a teacher at heart, and I love what I do, so I'd be more than happy to bring back the series year after year if that is your request.
So I know that going on 11 years, I've been on the board, never, ever had we had anything like this presented to us. Nothing against anybody in the past, but it's, as Joel, it's been well received, and I would think anybody listening or seeing this, even if they just saw little bits and pieces, would learn from it. So I know David and Felicia they're the two that have been on the board longer than me. Have y'all ever had anything like this presented to you?
We can understand it now. I can. I don't know about David, but like you said, nothing against anyone in the past, but it has been explained, but never the way you did it, to be able to understand it and grasp it. So I think like Joel, every year we can learn it a little bit more, a little bit better, and then even if we have new people, new staff, they're understanding.
It's like a revival. You need more
Well,
every chance you
Every
can
chance you
get.
get.
Well, one thing's for sure, and that's that it wasn't near this complicated when I first got on the board. It wasn't necessarily a good system, but it was much simpler. So it's the complexity has grown. It was the result of the state, unfortunately, being kind of forced by the courts, the Texas courts, to seek more fairness in the funding system, and that led to complexity and much more complexity. So it has become more important that we know what's going on, and of course then the other part of that is not just the system, the funding system, but then what was really kind of thought of as, well, we're in our little oversight position, and we're not necessarily involved in the the details of compensation and so on. We're, of course, supposed to be very informed by administration. I'm talking about years past, as to what the plan was, how we were going to compensate teachers and so on. But it was not ever, the board simply wasn't as involved in the details. And I have absolutely no problem with that we're now doing that. And I don't think it was laziness. I think it was just often thought of as not the role of the board to be in the weeds and looking at all the details. It is kind of overwhelming, and I think it's healthy for us to know all this stuff, and it certainly makes it easier to talk to people and attempt to explain how we get to where we are. But it is also frustrating that, again, one more time, the complexity is such that it's overwhelming to sometimes to me, to maybe some of y'all, and certainly the public. So thank you for all the efforts you put into making it understandable.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't go far, I think. Mrs. Friddle will now provide a budget update for the 2025-2026 fiscal year.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight, I will be providing a brief update on the current year budget. Over the course of the year, we have worked through a variety of challenges and opportunities while continuing to focus on maintaining the district's financial stability. This evening, I will be walking you through where we started, some of the key actions we've taken throughout the year, and where we currently project to end the fiscal year. As we are all aware, our enrollment took a dip this year compared to last year. Coupled with the $6.7 million budget deficit we started with, we knew we had our work cut out for us and that adjustments would be necessary. We went to work immediately, focusing on ways to minimize the impact on student experience while keeping our financial position stable. Throughout the year, we made a number of budgetary and operational adjustments to address immediate challenges and to help us finish the year in the strongest financial position possible. When you're facing a budget deficit and a decline in enrollment, the answer isn't simply to cut expenditures, although that is a way. We knew from the beginning that we would have to address the challenge from both the expenditure and the revenue side. The items in front of you are not an exhaustive list, but they represent some of the major strategies that we implemented throughout the year. On the expenditure side, one of the most effective tools we used was attrition. When vacancies occurred, we evaluated whether positions truly needed to be filled before moving forward. We also strengthened our position control processes, giving us better visibility into our staffing, vacancies, our payroll expenditures as a whole, which, as you know, make up the largest portion of our budget. We implemented stronger budgeting and purchasing controls by requiring that there be a budget available before requisitions could be submitted. This practice alone changed spending behaviors, increased accountability, and it helped prevent budget overruns. We also increased oversight of comp time and overtime, ensuring that costs were necessary and aligned with district priorities. And most importantly, we implemented a budget-to-actual forecasting monthly reporting process. A budget is not something that you set and walk away from. It must be monitored, evaluated, and adjusted throughout the year. Regular forecasting allowed us to identify issues early, communicate with budget managers, and make adjustments along the way. On the revenue side, we adjusted health insurance premiums, we increased communication around healthcare utilization, and we worked to educate our staff about what it means to be self-funded. But most notably, on the revenue side, we submitted property value audits for 2 prior years, which generated nearly $5 million in additional revenue that had not been previously claimed. So, taken together, these efforts on both the expenditure and revenue side helped us improve our financial outlook end the year in a much stronger position than originally anticipated. So this slide summarizes the current year's budget outlook. Before I begin, please note that this is a draft and the fiscal year has not yet ended. For that reason, I am presenting an estimated range rather than a final number. As adopted, the budget reflected a $6.7 million deficit. Through budget amendments and ongoing adjustments throughout the year, that deficit was reduced to approximately $3.1 million. The projected actual year-end result currently ranges from a deficit of approximately $3.1 million to a positive contribution to fund balance of approximately $1.9 million. The reason for the range is that we still have significant activity remaining in the final year quarter. June, July, and August are very active months from an accounting perspective, with more than $42 million in expenditures still expected to be processed, along with final payroll accruals, outstanding invoices, and other year-end audit adjustments. Even with this range, we remain within board policy. So based on current projections, ending fund balance is expected to remain between approximately 2.3 to 2.7 months of operating expenditures. And we'll discuss some of the remaining variables and pending items on the next slide. But overall, the district's financial position is significantly stronger than originally anticipated. So what do I mean by projected actual? Simply put, it's our best estimate of where we believe we will end the year based on the information available today. I would again remind everyone that this is a draft. Just because the fiscal year ends on June 30th does not mean that the financial activity stops. In fact, year-end is one of the busiest and most complex times in school finance. We are closing one year while preparing for the next, and there are still many items that must be finalized and reconciled. Some of the largest pending items include payroll accruals, summer school costs, teacher incentive allotment reconciliations, and invoices that continue to be processed through the end of July. In addition, auditors will review year-end transactions and may require adjustments to ensure that revenues and expenditures are recorded in the proper fiscal year. So for those reasons, the numbers you see today are estimates, and that is why I am presenting a projected range rather than a final year-end results. The final numbers actually come in when our audit is complete. Happy to take any questions.
I just want to commend the work that's happened, not just this year, but in a time frame leading up to this year, at least since my participation on this board. There's, when we look at the adjustments we made for expenditures and revenues on an earlier slide, those are just bullet points on this slide, but there's so much work involved. There's so much communication involved. There's collaboration and education with staff. There's staff that have positive attitudes about approaching these types of adjustments and change in thought that have to be commended because it's a group effort to accomplish this. But I just, when we talk about leveraging attrition, well, that means that people are carrying the torch for some employees that may not be on staff, and they're carrying a heavy load, and that takes a special kind of person to do that. And you talk about zero-based budgeting. I mean, that's education and understanding across the district about how to approach our budgets so we're more accurate and in line. So these have, just each one of them carries so much work, and even on the revenue side, just to look at ways to identify revenue streams for the district that may or may not have been there previously, but it's helping us get to this point. And I know we're still conservative, and I appreciate the fact that you're always conservative, and even today presenting a range, but compared to where we were in the beginning, I think we've made enormous strides, and I'm thankful for that effort across the district because everyone was involved in the process. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Just to add a little bit to that, I'm sure that a lot of people look at this, and to some extent, I can agree with it, is that we were put in a position where, by the state, we didn't have any choice but to try to find ways to reduce our expenditures. But the part that everyone should remember is that we all have to live within our means, and sometimes people are forced to, or businesses or whomever, are forced to do things that they have to do, but it's not necessarily in the best interest of the people that they serve, because you can only go so far in your cutting. And before, some people have referred to it as cutting fat and then cutting muscle. At some point, we will not be able to produce the product we want to produce in Bryan ISD if we have to cut and cut and cut some more. I'll mention that sometimes you hear recently that they had a record amount of additional funding for public schools in the last session, but what's not mentioned when those comments are made is that 2 sessions ago we got nothing, and with a lot of inflation. It did not, the last session didn't catch up with that. So I'm appreciative. We had to do it. We found some savings that are certainly not going to hurt us, we think, but some other savings are, as we keep trying to find more, unfortunately, at some point, and we may have already hit that to a degree, we're not going to be able to do what we truly want to do, because we want excellence in every area, and you just don't get that if you just keep cutting. There's, at some point, it's going to hurt. So some people might not seem to care about that. We on this board and everybody that works for this district cares about it, and I think the parents and the students care about it. But unfortunately, it seems like some folks are just not that concerned and are turning kind of a blind eye toward it. But that's my short speech. I hope it was short. That we're doing what we got to do, but that doesn't mean that we can keep doing it and not suffer some consequences.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think it's also to just maybe expand a little bit on Mr. Stasny's comments, is that, when we talk about budget, we're also talking about the enrichment programs that our district offers that go above and beyond many districts. And we'll have, conversations with staff about their experiences in other districts where they didn't offer some of the programs that we do. With IB, AP, Aspire, Explore, Kickstart, dual language, robotics, gymnastics, powerlifting, wrestling, Avid, mariachi, orchestra. These are all programs that come with a price. And so as we look at budget, we try to we try to protect these programs, and that's why, as we look at making cuts to create efficiencies in our district, it's all done with the intent to protect these programs and to protect the students that participate in those programs because they want them. But when you talk about hitting muscle, those are the programs that we're trying to protect, and it's been a challenge to safeguard them and maintain them. But that's the commitment we have as a district, and it's important.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else? Good.
You know, Joel, you were talking about those programs, and it's so much of keeping those things available is the staffing and the people, our people that we have to have, and most of them want, of course, to be there with those kids. And so when we think of a program, we're thinking of, you know, equipment and things available to those children, some computers or whatever it is, but the most relevant thing to keep those programs going is the teachers and the coaches and the directors and things like that. So that, to me, and I know you're thinking the same thing, that to me breaks it down to the most important thing we've got to find money for is our people. And I don't mean that to be slang. I'm just saying our humans.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 6C, strategic planning update. Dr. Bryan Merrill, Deputy Superintendent, will present.
I'm going to ask if I could, Ms. Friddle, to join me as well. I know she's, thank you for allowing us to come speak tonight. As you well know, strategic planning never really stops. We will continue to look strategically into the future. Whether or not that leads to anything like practical or anything that comes into the boardroom doesn't always. In this case, we will constantly bring feedback back into the boardroom, and we're so very thankful for the groups that met. And I'll remind everybody of the way that we approach this with strategic planning. We do make data-informed decisions, open and honest dialogue, feedback. This group was even bigger than last time. We had, at one point, over 100 different individuals in here, cross-representation from the entire community, and we broke it up into 3 different groups. And I'll remind you, and those hopefully that are watching at home, in 2025, we started with strategic planning, and then very quickly the group led to an action item, which is the 2025 bond steering committee. And it started strategic planning and then moved over into bond steering. In this go around, we started with really 3 different areas of focus. And this was really, if you will, birthed all the way back in 2025. Those questions started coming, and we made the decision with the group to focus on the facilities. And we took the questions that group was asking, and we said, look, we're going to get back to it. We just need a minute to be able to move through, obviously, the 2025. And so we came back around the table, or around all the tables, and we started answering the questions over finance, academics, and operations. And this is just a different representation of it. In March and May, we met as a full group. We divided into the next subsequent meetings into the finance, academics, and operations. The finance that Ms. Friddle is going to go over met more regularly, and then we brought everyone back together in May, and then we ultimately didn't move into June or July. The group did a wonderful job of staying on task and really moving through it. And again, I would echo the comments that the board made earlier about the financial aspect of it and the education that we all got. It was fun to watch the different citizens and just their level of understanding. They really got to understand it, and I'm very, very thankful because, again, they're representative of our entire community. This is all of the dates that we met, and so it's not only strategic planning, but you'll look on, I guess, my right, you'll see the community focus groups. We met April the 14th and 15th. We even took it to the students, and we met with them. And then we had annual campus and department financial review meetings. That's basically a complicated way of saying the road show. We did it again. It just seems like every semester we go on a road show to talk about various things, well, whether it's healthcare, whether it's the state of public school and finances, or whatever's going on. It's obviously advantageous to have our staff understanding exactly what's going on. Again, a full commitment from the committee, meeting that many times from March all the way through May, but they're just wonderful. Here's some additional ones. We met with the parent leadership group on April the 16th, faith-based partner meetings April the 24th, district leadership team the 30th, teacher advisory May 6th. You can tell Ms. Carabana is very busy as well, presenting in all these things. And then you unfortunately fortunately got to hear us a bunch. 11 different times from December through June. And the Texas School Finance Key Concepts and Landscape with Amanda Brownson came in here. So very, very thankful for the work of Ms. Friddle, thankful for the strategic planning, and thankful for the work. And it did lead to something that you took action on that we'd like to talk about. And that is our academic, the flexible learning options. So the academic and operations subgroup really drilled down and started answering all of the questions and looking at it from the various perspectives to help us get not only questionnaires out, but to make sure the rollout of this program could hit the ground running. And we're very excited about that. And Dr. Barra, how many do we currently have? 175 have expressed interest, which is amazing. So they looked at it from all different perspectives, extracurriculars, advanced academics, what type of student could enroll, what the requirements would be. They did a wonderful job of really looking deep into this to be able to bring the recommendation that you ultimately approved. And this is the flyer. You've seen it go out, but just a practical example of how strategic planning leads to practical action, to be honest. So last time it was bond steering. This time it was the virtual academy. And again, without their input, I think it would have taken significantly longer. It's just super helpful for those guys to be able to give us input and to go back and to talk amongst their friends. And again, you'll see it here. So these are our communications department did a wonderful job in communicating this out and making sure it got to our parents. And you can see that we've got just a wonderful array of options that our parents or those even outside of Bryan ISD are able to take advantage of. So those were the two subgroups. And then I'll let Ms. Friddle talk about the finance subgroup.
Thank you, Dr. Merrill. As part of the finance subgroup, our first session really focused on School Finance 101 and providing a high-level overview of how public schools are funded. We discussed some of the key concepts like what is the basic allotment, what is average daily attendance, and we talked about the distinction between enrollment and attendance-based funding. We also reviewed the district's financial position, including the district's projected budget deficit. We broke down the tax rate into its two main components, and we explained the purpose of each of the segments, ensuring that everybody understood how those funds could and could not be used. Overall, the goal was to establish a common understanding of school finance and provide the context needed for future budget discussions. As the sessions progressed, we took a deeper dive into the district's finances. We talked about revenues, expenditures, and the steps that the district has taken to right-size the budget, and we talked about the importance of maintaining a healthy fund balance. The group also wanted to better understand what options existed to generate meaningful revenue and help preserve the programs and opportunities that our students value. Building on their understanding of the tax rate, we discussed what enrichment pennies were. We talked about what was available on the Tier 2 side of the tax rate and the potential revenue that those pennies could generate. Those conversations led to additional thoughtful questions and helped the group gain a better understanding of both the challenges and the opportunities facing the district. So we discussed the two golden pennies available to the district and broke down the local and state share associated with those pennies. One of the group's primary questions was, how much revenue could these pennies generate? We reviewed estimates showing that the two golden pennies could generate approximately $5.5 million in recurring revenue. We also discussed that unlike copper pennies, golden pennies are not subject to recapture, so that allowed the district to retain both the local and the state's share of that revenue. It was important that the committee understood that this was ongoing revenue and that it would continue to benefit the district in future years, rather than a one-time funding opportunity. We also discussed the district's copper pennies. We explained that each penny is worth approximately $1 million after recapture. The state allows districts to access up to 9 copper pennies, and Bryan ISD currently has not leveraged any of those pennies. As part of the discussion, I provided an example of the taxpayer impact of a 2-cent tax rate increase. We used a home appraised at $350,000 with a homestead exemption applied, and we compared the tax rate to a rate that included the 2 additional pennies. The example showed an annual increase of approximately $42 for the year, or $350 per month. We also discussed the importance of understanding that increases in a property tax bill are often driven by changes in property values, not necessarily increases in the tax rate itself. So as part of one of our sessions, we held a table discussion about a possible VATRE and what the district could accomplish with approximately $5.5 million in additional recurring revenue from the 2 golden pennies. The group discussed various scenarios, priorities, and timing considerations, and participants shared thoughtful perspectives and very valuable feedback throughout the conversations. Throughout this process, we were very intentional about seeking stakeholder input and ensuring that community voices were part of the discussion. So after the table discussions and group exercises, it became very clear that staff compensation was the top priority if the district were to receive an additional $5.5 million in recurring revenue. The group recognized that competitive pay is about more than salaries. It helps us attract and retain high-quality teachers and staff, which ultimately strengthens the district. A close second was preserving the programs and opportunities that make Bryan ISD unique. Participants expressed a strong desire to protect the student experience and maintain the programs that set our district apart. Safety and security also remained a top priority. So overall, the feedback centered on investing in our people, protecting our programs, and maintaining safe schools. Speaking of the programs that set Bryan ISD apart, these are just a few examples of the opportunities we have worked hard to preserve throughout our budget process. We have heard directly from parents who have told us, please don't jeopardize these programs. For many families, these offerings are the reason that they choose Bryan ISD. They have options, but they choose our district because of our unique opportunities, course offerings, and experiences available to our students. These programs are an important part of who we are, and protecting them has remained a priority throughout all of our budget discussions. So this was the timeline that was shared with both the Finance Committee, Strategic Planning Committee, to help everyone understand the sequence of events required for a potential VATRE. The process begins with adoption of a proposed budget and tax rate. The board has already authorized an efficiency audit, and the district has engaged Mo Casey to conduct that work. Once certified property values are received at the end of July, the district will submit the necessary information to TEA so that our maximum compressed rate, or our MCR, can be calculated and released in early August. From there, the district must meet all truth in taxation requirements and publication deadlines. If the board chooses to adopt a tax rate above the voter approval rate, an election would be required. The deadline to call a VATRE election is August the 17th, with election day scheduled for November 3rd. So this timeline helps ensure that all statutory requirements and deadlines are met should the board choose to move forward.
What you're seeing up here is next steps. I mentioned at the beginning that strategic planning really never stops. We may take a break for the summer or pause for holidays. This is the survey that we put out to the group to ask us what's next. And so they went in and looked at it, and grade reconfiguration was on there, start and end times, and then they wanted to look at advanced academic pathways. So we'll be bringing those topics back for consideration to strategic planning when we meet back in the fall. And again, taking the direction from the group, not exactly knowing where they're going, but as we make information available, they are wonderful at providing their opinions and really getting into the details, which we're so thankful for. And this whole concept of the financial education, I'm so thankful, because all the way back in 2025, the very first question that we got was from an 11th grade student at Bryan High School that asked about the VATR specifically, not in those terms, but asked if there was any way to generate more money to fund public schools. And so I'm thankful that that is on the forefront of everyone's mind as we begin to consider this. Any questions, comments, suggestions?
Two things. Can you go back? It's like
Sure.
maybe this page. I think it's important. Joel, a minute ago, read off, or from his brain, he talked about a lot of our programs.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
this, I would like to read, or you can
Sure.
read it out loud, because this pretty well encompasses most of what we offer that is either similar or much more than what
Yes, ma'am.
many districts.
And to put it in perspective, in 2018, I moved to Bryan. I was in a previous district that is big. It's a very large suburb outside of Houston, and it's growing. And as I look at this list, I see countless examples of programs that we didn't offer. And even in Cypress Fairbanks before that, where I was before going to Waller, this same thing. We did not have all of these programs. So as you look at it, the International Baccalaureate, the IB program at Bryan High School, the College Board AP Capstone at Rudder, Aspire, our Advanced Academics, Explore Advanced Academics, Dual Language, the Bryan Collegiate High School, the C-Tech, and the additional offerings that are there as robotics and engineering, Kickstart, never offered in either Cypress Fairbanks or Waller. Robotics, we didn't offer that either. The Ambassador Program, non-UIL sanctioned sport, I've never been to a district that had gymnastics, to be completely honest with you, and we have state champions that are rolling in every year. The AVID program was cut years ago by districts, and I couldn't imagine Bryan Collegiate or our high schools without AVID for sure. Mariachi and orchestra, you know what those programs do for our community and the representation that exists in those, and just the pride that we feel from the incredible musicians that are created and the ownership that takes place. And then just all the clubs, whether it be just general interest or academic, it just takes money. It takes stipends. It takes, honestly, quite a bit of money to be able to host things like this. It's not only for the staff, but it's for travel, it's for entry, it's for supplies, it's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, just to put these programs on and to make sure they exist. And honestly, it's the reason why kids come to school. So often and so many times, these are the programs that bring them in every day, and then they take care of the four core or whatever else is going on. So I appreciate you making that point. And this was echoed throughout every committee that we met with, whether it was finance, operations, or the academic. They made it very clear that these are incredibly important to them and to their kids and to the community. Even if they didn't have kids, they recognize the value and importance of it.
And these not only start at the upper levels, but a lot of these, of course, start with younger kids.
Yes, ma'am.
And they stay in them, and then they just pile more on.
Yes, ma'am.
And so a lot of these programs and activities, our kids, and it's not just a small group of students.
No, ma'am.
It's, across the board. And a lot of our students are in more than just a few of these at the same time, or they stair step through their career. And these type things are what we all read about, and I'm sure the people that are hearing this read about that other districts are having to cut.
Yes, ma'am.
And we don't want to do it.
No.
We're not gonna do it unless you pull our toenails off. We're gonna do everything we can to save these programs, because it's like you said, a lot of our students come for these.
They do.
And then, math and science, okay, I'll do that and I'll pass,
Yeah,
because I have to.
I love the
For
teachers,
these.
so I love that. I kind of tolerate whatever, but they're different areas, and a lot of these are extracurricular and a lot of these are academic. Without that advanced academics, we're not appealing to a whole different group of kids. And some of them are in sports, some of them are in fine arts, but you have to have the diversity, and you're exactly right.
And AVID teaches, and it's been, one of my great friends, Lourdes Goriski, was our very first AVID teacher, and it's a lot of our first-year college-bound,
Yes, ma'am.
first graduate high school kids, teaching them about life, about business, about how to get a job, about how to stay in school and go to college, and just on
How to
and
do a
on and
resume.
on. And so something like AVID touches every part of a kid's life.
Mhm.
So a lot of these aren't just fun and games,
No, ma'am.
and we need them.
Yes, ma'am. So all of this was walked through. I just want to, all of the things that were going on in here, we would make additional slide decks and continue to go through it. And I'll just point it out that it's all of these individuals got a version of this. So whether it was the strategic planning that got it kind of teased out, or the focus group that we went in kind of, quick and went as deep as we possibly could, the student focus groups, we even talked to them about what they love and what they wanted to see continue and what they valued in their school, all the way to the road shows, and then all of these meetings as well. So all of this content that was shared today has been shared and is on our website and made available, so it's all out there. But we, again, appreciate the opportunity to share tonight. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
Before we get to the next item, the board will now convene in closed session to discuss the following items as allowed by the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551.072, 551.076, 551.074, and 551.0821. No voting will take place in the closed meeting. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussion in a closed session will occur after the board reconvenes in the open meeting. The time is now 6:51 p.m. All right, the board reconvened in open session at 7:22 PM. No action was taken in closed session. We'll move to information item 6D, 2026-2027 fiscal year budget update and compensation planning. Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Norma Friddle, will present.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight, I will be providing an update on the 26-27 budget and compensation plan. As you may recall from last month's budget workshop, we provided a preview of some compensation options and discussed some financial challenges facing the district. Since then, we have continued those conversations with the Finance Committee and administration. We've reviewed updated information, and we've worked through some of the financial impact of the various options under consideration. As the second year of the biennium, we are not anticipating significant new funding. And like many school districts across the state, we continue to navigate the effects of declining enrollment and rising costs. Throughout this process, we have spent considerable time reviewing staffing needs, leveraging attrition where possible, and identifying non-payroll reductions to help align expenditures with our available revenues. Tonight's presentation is a high-level summary of those discussions and the work that has taken place over the past several months as we prepare for the upcoming fiscal year. As a reminder, this is an informational budget update, not a budget approval item. So as you may recall from last month's budget workshop, we reviewed these budget assumptions in detail. These assumptions are the foundation of the budget and represent the best estimates based on the information available today. We must project average daily attendance, property values, collections, and state funding. For 26-27, we have taken a conservative approach, including a slight decline in property values and the assumption that the tax rate will remain unchanged. As we discussed previously, the state comptroller values play an important role in the funding formula as they help ensure that property values are appraised consistently across the state. This slide is simply a recap of the key assumptions that are driving the budget before you tonight. All right, so for comparison purposes, we've included projected actual results for the current year alongside next year's budget projections. I'll start with revenues, we'll then go through expenditures, and then we'll finish the overall with a budget summary. As you can see, projected actual revenues for the current year are at approximately $191 million, compared to next year's projected revenues of about $182.9. Again, all of these projections are based on the assumptions we reviewed earlier, including enrollment, attendance, property values, tax collections, and state funding. Overall, we are projecting a decline in revenues next year compared to the current year, which continues to reflect the financial challenges many districts across the state are currently facing. So this slide here compares our current projected actual expenditures to the proposed budget for 26-27. As a reminder, the current year projection remains a range. Based on where we stand today, we could end the year with a deficit of approximately $3.1 million or contribute as much as $1.9 million to fund balance. Assuming a $1.9 million contribution to fund balance, the district's estimated ending fund balance would be just over $43 million, representing about 2.7 months worth of operating expenditures, well within board policy. Looking ahead to 26-27, the proposed budget includes a total expenditures of approximately $186.3 million, resulted in a projected deficit range of up to $3.3 million. Once again, I am emphasizing a deficit range because the budget remains a work in progress, and additional refinements will be reflected when the proposed budget is brought back for official consideration and approval at our next meeting. Under this projected scenario, fund balance remains stable at about 2.5 months worth of operating expenditures. The next few slides will highlight some of the key assumptions behind this budget, including compensation.
Could you go back just a moment to a previous, I'm not sure which one or two back. I guess one more. Okay, I'm just confused on this because the federal, don't we get a lot more than that in federal?
We don't.
This is the federal revenue that's recorded in the general fund.
Okay.
Actual federal grants are not a part of the board adoption process. Those are entitlement grants, and
Okay.
those are recorded separately.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, great question. Thank you.
Norman, I got another question.
Yeah.
Can you go back one more? Sorry. The state funding, can you tell me the difference in that 7 million?
Oh, yes, sir. So if you recall from our budget workshop last month, what I'm actually presenting here is a projected actual.
Yes.
What I presented at our budget workshop was the current budget.
Okay.
So I thought this presenting a current, a projected actual may make a little bit more sense. So if we're taking into account the projected actual, our stake number for this year includes that property audit revenue, that one-time revenue
Oh,
that we received
thank
this year. So that's why you see the decline
Thank you.
in state funding. Yeah, I thought this view here would make a lot more sense so that you can see the decline versus last month you saw the revenue increase and you're like, what was
Yes.
happening there? So this was a much better presentation, a much better view.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, we are presenting a deficit range of up to negative $3.3 million for the 26-27 fiscal year. Included in that budget is the proposed compensation plan, which will be presented later tonight as a separate action item. The proposal includes a $500 one-time stipend for all full-time employees, reinstatement of the $50 per week bus driver attendance incentive, implementation of the teacher step, and a $1,000 increase to the starting teacher salary. The total cost of the proposed compensation plan is approximately $2.2 million, and once again, is already included in the budget scenario presented this evening.
Can I interrupt again? But
Yeah.
on the stipend, that might sound to some people like, oh, so you're giving everybody a bonus. That's not really accurate because it's kind of like we're using a stipend because we're in no position to really give everybody a $500 raise. Is that kind of, because that would be permanent, right? So isn't that really what the stipend's about? Not because we're going to give them a bonus.
Correct, yes. Stipends are more of a one-time benefit. And again, I always emphasize that every budget year is independent, so that's the available revenue that we have this year. So we can give it as a stipend versus a raise, which lives on forever.
Yeah, and so the sad thing is that we can't promise that, whereas a raise would be probably something you could expect year after year, but this, we simply can't make promises right now because of the situation we're in with the deficit that you've already referred to. So, thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Ms. Friddle, would you elaborate on the teacher step and the cost associated with that? Fortunately, we're able to work this into the budget.
Yes, ma'am. So the implementation of the teacher step is included in this compensation model. It also includes raising our starting teacher pay by $1,000. So it would include an increase in the teacher step. So they'll see a few more dollars in comparison to last year's salary schedule. In comparison to this year, there's a slight increase in that salary. Okay. So over the past several months, we had many conversations about how to balance our budget while continuing to serve our students and support our staff. This slide basically highlights some of the steps that we've taken to make progress toward balancing our budget and maximizing revenues. Throughout this process, our goal has remained the same: to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars while positioning the district for long-term financial stability. We knew that balancing the budget would require more than simply reducing expenditures. We also had to maximize revenues and carefully evaluate every opportunity available to the district. Of all these efforts, the monthly budget to actual forecasting process has had a great impact. It has improved communication, increased accountability, and given district leaders a much better understanding of where we stand financially throughout the year. I never want to miss an opportunity to highlight everything that Bryan ISD has to offer. From the moment I joined the Bryan ISD family, I quickly recognized that the breadth of programs and opportunities available to our students is truly exceptional. As we worked through this budget process, protecting the student experience remained a top priority. These are just a few examples of the programs and opportunities we have worked hard to preserve throughout this process. And finally, we are required to present the taxpayer impact statement, which compares the current tax year to the proposed tax year and summarizes the median homestead value, proposed tax rate, and estimated tax bill for the average homeowner. The median homestead value shown here includes the homestead exemption of $140,000. I would also note that these figures are based on preliminary property values and estimates. Certified values will not be available until late July, so we anticipate updating and reposting this information once final values are received from our county appraisal districts. This is a new requirement under the Texas Government Code 551.043, and tonight's presentation ensures the district remains in compliance. At this time, I'd be happy to take any questions.
We're going to talk about, your next presentation is compensation, right?
Yes, ma'am, that's an action item. This is just an informational item, just kind of given the status of where we are in the 26-27 budget planning process. So yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Associate Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, Dr. Barbara Ybarra, will provide our next information item, Teaching and Learning Annual Renewal of Supplemental Educational Support and Operational Software Services.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've also invited Jolynn Bricker, our Director of C&I, and Dr. Jennifer Warren, our Executive Director of Special Programs. They have a few items in this presentation where they could speak on behalf of those items. So every year we come back to the drawing board, and as we're talking about budget, we look at those federal grants that you mentioned earlier, Mr. Stasny, and we look at what the needs are in the district. We've whittled the list down considerably over the past several years, but there are certain tight parameters that overlay on a number of these dollars and a number of these federal programs. For example, Title I purchases can only be for certain things. Your IDEA purchases can only be for certain things. And then there are some items where we can't utilize grant funding. It has to be funded out of the local budget. So what you're seeing this evening is the review of those annual renewals of things that the district utilizes, and it has utilized for a number of years, but some have been removed. You might recall prior years we've had a program, it's a great program, Summit K-12. It's funded from Title III dollars. We've actually reduced that to less than $50,000, so it's not needed as extensively as it was previously. But the ones that are on the screen for you this evening are ones that we would be liking to bring to the board for consideration at the next board meeting. So on the left-hand side, these are the operational renewals. These software packages are part of how we do business, and we're going to talk through each of those briefly. You can also see the funding sources there. There are certain codes at the bottom there that explain the different types of funding sources. IDEA is Individual Disability Act, State Compensatory Education is SCE, Title I and Title III, and then there's a TIA. We have talked often about the TIA percentages that go to the teachers. 90% goes to the teachers. 10% stays at the district level to fund the TIA program. And a number of these purchases help us maintain that TIA program. This year we had over 400 teachers receive a designation, which generated $5 million in additional payments to teachers. 10% of that is reserved to help run some of the programs you're seeing this evening. So our first program is MAP by NWEA. Previously, this was a district-wide subscription when it went K-12. We did reduce it this past year, and it's only utilized in grades K through 2 now, with the exception of a few other moments for certain students. But it is one of those that's approved by TEA, one for the TIA program, but also for the reading screening programs that Mrs. Bricker can speak to. So this particular item is used by every K through 2 student for both reading, language usage, and mathematics, with an annual cost of about $86,000. Again, that's down from about $250,000 previously when we were using it district-wide for TIA purposes. The next software program, Branching Minds, is really a teacher support software for tracking interventions both academically and behaviorally. This is a requirement of legislation that we track this type of data as part of our multi-tiered system of supports, and that we track and see how students are progressing to know if there's a greater need than what's provided in the Tier 1 instruction. This has been utilized extensively, K-12, by all teachers. It helps us not only track the hours, but track the interventions, but to provide suggestions for interventions for the teachers. If a student's struggling in a particular area, it helps the teacher identify other ways they may intervene with that student. Also operationalizes communications with record keeping with parents and all of the information that's needed to report on the summer PEIMS for that intervention and support that's required under House Bill 1416. Eduphoria is, you'll see it has multiple funding sources because some of it can only be funded by local dollars and other parts of the program can be funded from federal dollars. It operates a suite of software packages, including our help desk for our technology, which is funded out of local. It also funds Strive, which is professional development, as well as teacher appraisal, also funded mostly from the local budget. And then the AWARE software program that's also in here is our data warehouse for all of our student assessment data, and we're able to put that into federal budget as well. So that one is split out a little bit differently, as well as some of the TIA dollars. Addition to that, there's another part of it for FormSpace. Our human resources team uses FormSpace pretty extensively. That's how we actually recommend people for hire, and the records flow through the system in a digital way. Dr. Warren, if you'd please come up about Frontline eSped.
Yes, we have used Frontline in the district for several years. You may recognize it from previous board meetings where we have asked for approval for this. Frontline is our program for monitoring compliance and maintaining our student records in special education. It also generates all of our forms that are used during our ARD meetings to ensure that we are covering all of our bases in those meetings, and how we track our student progress each 6 weeks with our students and ensuring that they are meeting their IEP goals. And it is also where we house our assessments when we provide evaluations in special education for our students with special education needs. We have about 3,400 students in special education that funnel through this software. It might actually be a little bit more when you think about the students that do not qualify for special education. We still put them into the system because we still have to collect the assessment data and hold the IEP meeting for them. So this program touches a lot of students. And then we also have pretty much the exact same concept, but for our emergent bilingual students with a program called Elevation. And again, this is a program you've probably recognized because we have used it for many years in the district. But this program allows us to monitor compliance and maintain our student data for our students who are emergent bilingual. And it also generates our forms for our LPAC committee meetings, which is our meeting that we hold to assess the students' language acquisition to ensure their success as well. Between the two programs, we see that they house all of our areas to monitor what we report to the state and to the federal government, and it helps keep us in line with what we're required to do as a district.
Next is Ms. Bricker, and she's going to go over a few purchases as well. I'll turn it over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. I have some very familiar programs to share with you. One of them is the HMH Read 180 and the Code. These are both reading intervention programs for students in grades 5 through 12. The Code is used with our most struggling readers who really need to be retaught in phonics skills to improve that, their fluency and their accuracy in their reading. Read 180 helps our students who are 2 to 3 years below grade level gain reading proficiency and comprehension skills. And this is also used if they failed STAR and they need more support for that. So we've used Read 180 and the Code for over 12 years, and we have seen positive gains with these programs. Reading Horizons is a program that we started using 4 years ago. It is our foundational skills curriculum that really teaches phonics in a very systematic, explicit way for our K through 3 students. Our students participate both in large group lessons, small group review sessions, and utilize the online component for daily skill checks and lesson practice. We're just asking for a 1-year contract renewal because we will be reviewing our ELA resources and we'll have an adoption to take place next year. So that's why there's just a 1-year contract there. With Edgenuity, y'all are very familiar with this program. It is our digital curriculum that we've used for credit advancement, credit recovery, grade repair, and blended learning. We use it both during the school year, and we're starting today with summer school using it for our students this summer. This coming year, grades 9 through 12 will be the main users for this program. We're really trying to take it out of the 5, 6, and 7, 8th grade years. It has been used successfully this year, and you can see the data there. Over 4,000 initial credit completions, over 3,000 credit recovery course completions, and over 1,000 successful grade repair completions.
When she's mentioned it, but she actually has reduced the cost on this particular software package. Annually, it was on a 3-year agreement. It was about $250,000 a year, and she's reduced it by about $100,000 by reconfiguring the contract. So she's done a tremendous job of being a good steward of taxpayer dollars. So.
We also are just asking for 1 year because we want to really research other options out there, especially with the virtual academy coming on, if we could utilize that program and get a better deal. So we're really trying to make sure that we make the best decisions with our money. And the very last one is Imagine Math. This is a great program for our elementary age children. We are going down just to K6 this year. It was used in 7th and 8th grade, but we're just going to do K6 next year. It is an online math instructional program that engages engaging adaptive math instruction for our students. It provides live teacher support, and it's very motivating with lots of the game element as well. There's a high correlation between students who pass over 30 lessons and how well they do on STAR. And we were very excited that over 4,000 of our students passed 30-plus lessons this year. In fact, Crockett Elementary was recognized in May with the Distinguished School of Excellence Award, which is one of the top 5 schools in the nation, not in Texas, with an average of over 50 lessons passed per student in grades 3 and 4. So it's really built into the culture at Crockett there and many other of our campuses as well. Thank you.
So is that just great utilization by the teachers to get the students to buy in, to use it? And so that's like the teachers getting an attaboy on the national level?
Very much. And the principal, Ms. Earhart, very much watches that data and supports her teachers and students in completing those lessons.
It sure pays off.
Yes, ma'am.
So these purchases, again, are renewals. All have been reviewed to ensure, one, that they're being utilized appropriately throughout the district and as designed throughout the district, and two, that they're making the positive impact that's expected from the purchase. It is a smaller list than in years past. One thing I did neglect to mention, we did not put on this evening's agenda to review the contracted services for special education. We'll bring that back in July once we kind of see how vacancies shape up and how many of those are filled, because that'll help us understand what type of support we may need to do contracted services with in the future. So we don't have that for us at this point. We want to hold off a little longer and see how many of those we're able to fill between now and then. But again, not for action tonight, just for discussion. And if the board's all right with it, we can move them to the next agenda item for consideration on consent or out loud on action. Any questions we can answer for you?
You said Imagine Math
Yes,
was
sir.
removed from 7th and 8th, is that correct?
It's more of, it has a younger kid kind of interface, and so 7th and 8th graders aren't as enamored with it as our younger kids through 6th grade. And there are other software packages, if I'm not mistaken, for our 6th and 7th graders, our 7th and 8th graders.
They will be focused on progress learning, which is what they're using this year, and that has the college and readiness with all the vocabulary they would need for that. So it was an intentional decision, not just for money, but for curriculum.
Sure. Well, it points to, it points to the fact that you're evaluating the performance of these programs and how they're being utilized in our grade levels, and I just appreciate the thoughtfulness in this presentation, because you've identified impact, you've identified that, we're continuously evaluating programs and utilizing the ones we need and making changes when needed. Also, doing a one-year contract to vet the program to make sure it's a good fit. So, as I sit here and try to think of questions that I could pepper you with, you continuously answered them, so thank you.
Thank you very much. They're an amazing team.
Good, thank you. Item number 7, consent agenda. The board can remove any item from the consent agenda if applicable. If there are none, I will entertain a motion.
I move approval of all the items listed on the consent agenda.
Second.
The motion was made by Mrs. Benford, seconded by Mrs. Waller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. The motion passes. Action items. First action item is to discuss and consider approval of the 26-27 compensation plan with Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Norma Friddle, and Mr. Tommy Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. President, board members, Superintendent Carabine. Tonight's action item is the proposed compensation plan for the 26-27 school year. As we developed this recommendation, we had to balance two realities. First, our employees deserve to be recognized for the incredible work they do each day. Our employees deserve to be recognized for the incredible work they do each day on behalf of our students. Second, we must ensure that any compensation adjustments are financially sustainable for the district, not just this year, but for future years. Like many school districts across the state, we continue to face financial challenges with declining enrollment, rising costs, and a school finance system that has not kept pace with inflation. However, we felt it was important to provide meaningful recognition to our staff where possible. While we recognize this proposal may not be everything we would like to offer, it represents a fiscally responsible approach that supports our employees while protecting the district's long-term financial stability. So this evening, we are recommending the following compensation plan for approval. A one-time $500 stipend for all full-time employees to be paid in December. Continuation of the $50 per week perfect attendance incentive for our bus drivers, which has helped improve attendance, staffing reliability, and daily transportation operations. Implementation of the teacher step to recognize experience and reward retention. And finally, a $1,000 increase to the starting teacher salary, scheduled to strengthen recruitment and remain competitive in the market. Aside from compensation, supporting employee well-being is just as important. While salary often gets the most attention, the value of our benefits package should not be overlooked. Benefits are the district's second largest investment behind payroll, and Bryan ISD offers a highly competitive and affordable package. The district contributes significantly towards healthcare costs, helping employees keep more money in their pockets. For example, our PPO Gold Choice Family Plan costs approximately $825 per month, while comparable plans in neighboring districts often range from $1,400 up to $1,800 a month for similar plans. Our high deductible family plan is $555 per month, compared to about $1,000 to $1,200 a month elsewhere. In addition, employees have access to a free health clinic with a $0 copay, a benefit that is not commonly offered by other districts. So as we discuss compensation, it is important to remember that affordable health care and strong benefits are a valuable part of the overall compensation package. At this time, I'll take any questions.
So, okay. This compensation plan that you're proposing would keep us 3.5 deficit, correct?
3.3.
3.3.
Projected range deficit up to 3.3.
Okay. So, right now, it looks like one of the only ways, I mean, we've done everything we can, we've gone over everything, scrimped to get money. Our strategic planning committee has brought to us several times about a VATRE plan, which would go to the voters. If we got that approved, would it go and take this compensation plan and scrap it, and we could go back to this year, redo a better compensation plan, and our teachers would get it starting July 1 and September 1 if they were brand new?
Yes, ma'am. If the board were to move forward and call for a VATRE, the deadline for that would be August the 17th. Now, as we talked through strategic planning, we have received compensation models from TASB. We received a low, medium, and a high model, and any one of those models would fit into that $5.5 million. So if that were to be the case, and the VATR would pass in November, you are correct. This compensation plan would be scrapped, and then we would actually implement or install actual raises into the plan, which would reflect the continuing recurring revenue that we have, so we would be able to sustain and maintain those raises. This plan here, it is a one-time stipend that would be payable in December, and so yeah, I'm sorry, did that answer your question?
No, right, and I think we were talking about it earlier, that this compensation plan is it's almost like all we can afford, and it's like a one-time little bonus. If we could get more money for the district, we could pay our teachers, our employees, our humans, what they're worth or more, at least. I mean, we could never pay them what they're worth, and balance the budget. Am I wrong?
That would be optimal. Those recurring $5.5 million would go a long way to help balance our budget and also get our competitive pay, get all of our employees a lot more competitive in pay. So yes, that would definitely help. That was part of the discussions that we were having with the finance subgroup committee. Of course, the questions always, came about what we would do with that money. We did run the table exercise with them, and they wanted to see that money go toward compensation. That was number one. We revisited some of the prior bond campaign kind of questions that we had, because one of the common questions that we would get is, can we pay our teachers more with bond funds? And we are not able to pay our teachers more with bond funds, as you've stated earlier in prior discussions. Bonds are really for buildings. They're for new construction, they're for renovations, they're for capital assets. VATREs are leveraged by school districts really more to increase compensation so that we can, be more competitive in the market. And we compared ourselves to a lot of the districts around us right now. And, there was a direct correlation between a higher tax rate, unfortunately, to higher pay. But we did run through some of those scenarios. All the TASB models that we have right now do support, like I said, a low, medium, and high model. So we want to be able to, if this should happen and if this should move forward, we definitely want to be conservative in our approach as well. We want to be able to give our employees a meaningful raise while also leaving some money for future use as well. But if that were to happen, and to your point about retroactive pay, if the board were to call a VATRE by the deadline, election day would be November 3rd. If that were to pass, then the raises would be retroactive to the beginning of their contract start date. So for example, I'm a July 1 employee. I work 226 days out of the year. My pay would be retroactive to July 1 versus teachers whose contracts start September 1. It would be retroactive to the start of their contract year.
Well, this compensation plan is what sets us back and keeps us from just balancing our budget, so to speak, for our people. But there is a way for us to pay our humans what we would want to pay them, and have a reoccurring every year more money for our budget.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's a VATRE or VATR.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I'm not going to make a long speech, but I will remind everybody, you've already said it, that the increases that we got at the past session did not keep up with inflation. It might have done a lot of good, and it did do a lot of good for experienced teachers, but that was earmarked. We couldn't do anything else with it. Great for experienced teachers. A whole lot of folks, dedicated workers in our district, we really didn't have enough money to do much of anything for them. We've got, I saw something on TV, I actually watch the news sometimes still, and it was about, they gave us all this money for security. Do we have enough to cover our security needs? No, we don't get enough from the state. We have to use what little we get from the general fund. Do we get enough for transportation? We found out, I guess, I didn't even know this until recently, that we don't really have to provide bus transportation. But of course we need to. That'd be crazy for us not to provide bus transportation so that kids can get to school. And yet we get only a small fraction from the state to pay for that. The rest of it has to come out of the general fund. So you don't believe everything you hear when you hear about, we've got more money we know what to do with. There are actually people saying that, and quite frankly, that's nuts. We do not have more money than we know what to do with. We are doing everything we can to try to hang on to people that can get out in the private sector and probably make more money and say, I don't need all this stress, and I don't need all these comments being made about how public schools aren't very good anyway, so let's do vouchers. So that's all I'm going to say tonight. But I do think that there's too much stuff going out there that would attempt to even cause people to say, well, what are they talking about? Vader? They don't need a Vader. They've already got all the money they need. It's just The facts don't bear that out.
Thank you for that reminder, Mr. Stasny. Yes, House Bill 2 did not infuse nearly the amount of money that we needed for compensation. We were very appreciative for what we received for the teachers. We were very, very grateful for that. But as we all know here, it takes more than just the teacher. It takes an entire village. We have our transportation team, maintenance and operations, our instructional aides, every other person. We have an army that supports our teachers. So you are correct. House Bill 2 did not address, not even close, not even nowhere near what we actually needed to catch up with all of the inflation that we've experienced, not just on the regular normal inflation that we feel at the grocery store or at the gas pump, but the medical inflation as well. So over the last decade, Bryan ISD has contributed over $9 million from the general fund to cover health insurance costs. So that's also been, that's also part of the equation as well. But yes, VADERs are more about people. Bond funds are more about buildings, new construction, renovations, and school districts are still looking to VATREs even after the passage of House Bill 2. We see the headlines. We showed the headlines in the slide deck with all of our special committees. You've seen them here in the boardroom as well. There's definitely a financial crisis across the state with as far as funding and state funding formulas, all the above. So yes.
Ms. Brittle, and speaking of House Bill 2, there was a little bit of confusion when I was out and about talking to some of the teacher groups about the money, the allotment, if you will, for 5+ years and 3 to 4 years. Will you remind our listeners, especially our staff, if they're listening, that is recurring?
Yes.
The state has committed to funding that, so it was not a one and done moment. Can you remind everyone of that?
Yes, Ms. Carabine, thank you for the reminder. So House Bill 2 included compensation for teachers in years 3 and 4 with an additional $2,500. Years 5 and above got an additional $5,000. Those monies will remain in your salary, so none of that is going away. And in fact, if you're going from one step to the next, it could mean additional funds for you, possibly picked up by the teacher retention allotment. But yes, you are correct. Those monies are going to stay in your pocket. They follow you, so none of that will remain unchanged.
And one quick reminder, and to express our gratitude to the board from last year, they chose to take care of our 1 to 2 year teachers because they were basically omitted from House Bill 2. So if you'll remind that group of teachers as well.
That is correct. Yes, ma'am. So we are continuing to fund out of the district's general fund the increase for those years, for the teachers in those years of service that were not included by House Bill 2. So years 0, 1, and 2 were completely funded by the district, and those raises will also remain the same. So this compensation plan also includes, those raises as well.
Well, I am thankful that over the last year, we've been able to participate in the budget development series and also receive frequent updates about the work of the district in terms of creating efficiencies and communicating and educating our staff to whittle down our budget deficit, which really this compensation package is $2.2 million, which is 1.1, which would be the deficit prior to this compensation package, which is a range, and that range is there because balanced is on the opposite end of that spectrum of 3.3 and being balanced, which that work that has been occurring over the last year will continue. And it's very difficult work. I know there's many meetings that you're participating in to define the methods and approach to retain staff, protect programs, and still continue to work to improve student outcomes, all the while finding money that we can apply to our budget. And I see opportunities that are in front of us with an efficiency audit, the consideration of the sale of real estate, continuing to evaluate budgets, and attrition as mechanisms to close that gap. But it is work. And obviously, you know, we'd love to come today and be balanced. But we acknowledge that, you know, we need to continue to reward staff and also be mindful of the budget work that's ahead to close the gap. But in my mind, the objective is to be financially sustainable and maintain our programs, improve student outcomes, and reward our staff with compensation that they deserve, because it's a profession that we need their participation in, and it is, I've never admired it more than I do now, of what it means to work as a teacher and in public education and continue to fight for our students. But ideally, we put all this work together to balance the budget and consider the potential ask of our community to support us so that we can reward our staff with higher compensation, which only allows us to attract and retain talent, be more competitive as a district, improve student outcomes, and forge ahead into, you know, the future as a much stronger Bryan ISD. And I think that's part of the consideration of what we're talking about tonight. And personally, what I would envision as our approach to being stronger and more efficient and compensating our staff in better ways than we can this evening. So thanks for putting all this together for our consideration.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, can I entertain a motion?
I move to approve the 2026-2027 compensation plan as presented.
Second.
Motion was made by Mrs. Benford, seconded by Mr. Stasny. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item 8B, discuss and consider approval of the renewal and purchase of the district's telecommunications system, Executive Director of Technology Services Julie Johnson, and Director of Technical Support Mr. Rob Hayes.
Good evening. So yeah, I'm excited here to talk to you all tonight about some renewals and updates to the district's phone system. And before we can look forward, we're going to take a little look back. So during the 2020 bond, the voters approved for us to do a comprehensive update to our phone systems as well as our emergency alerts and public address systems. During that, the most qualified bid was for a Cisco phone system with an Informacast tie-in. And what that is it is just a piece that ties our both our legacy and our new public address systems into the phone system, allowing, say, like an administrator to be able to make an announcement from any phone in the building as long as they punch in the correct code. There are other, and some other, lots of other kind of back-end updates. All the classrooms got new phones. And actually, we even tie the Alyssa's Law emergency alert button that's required to be in every classroom to those classroom phones. And it is that system and the integration between the two, the Cisco phone system and Informacast, that allows for that that allowed us to do it. So what I'm bringing to you tonight is in two parts. So the first piece that we're talking about is on the slide deck now, and that is a renewal for our Cisco phone system and our all of the back-end hardware that makes that happen. So I could use a lot of big words and acronyms, but there's a couple of servers that are redundant that sit on the back end. That's part of the hardware refresh. And then there's also a router, not unlike maybe the router you have at home that's on every campus that allows for an emergency failover to a specific or a few specific phones that would allow the campus to dial 911 should they lose internet. So it's a piece that we have in place now, and we felt like it was important to include that in this update. So the first piece is going to be for the renewal of our Cisco software, which gives us the support and the upgrades and all of the things that we need to keep that system running, as well as all of the back-end hardware to keep all of that to continue. So that's on the Cisco side. Oh, and I should say that this entire project is bond funded and is under budget, so I was excited about that.
Yay.
Sorry.
Thank you.
The second piece of this is Parent Square calling. So the district recently partnered with, or not recently, it was in the fall, partnered with Parent Square, and it's a really great communication platform for our campuses and really the whole district. What Parent Square calling adds to our teachers is it gives them the ability to have a soft phone, either on their computer or on their personal cell phone. And it lets that teacher have a real, like Bryan number, like a 979 number. And then they can call, if they needed to have a parent call them, or they needed to call parent, it's going to mask their identity. They'll still know it's from Bryan ISD. It won't show up like spam or anything like that. But it does give the teachers a little bit of privacy while still having a direct communication line, either through text, through the Parent Square app, but with this addition, also through a voice call. And there's a couple of awesome things that I wanted to point out. For instance, it gives them an extra layer of accountability because we can have transcription on those phone calls. So if maybe things, which I think is just a positive thing. It also works, like I said, works seamlessly on their smartphone and computer. And I also wanted to point out that we looked at lots of other options for soft phone, which is kind of the industry term, soft phone stuff over the years, for lack of a better word. And like Cisco, for instance, they do offer a piece that does similar things to this, and we did look at that. But it was both more expensive and more cumbersome for the end user than something like Parent Square, because it really gives them more like it gives our staff like it's all in one app, right? It's like a one-stop shop for all of their communication needs, so.
Is this only used from their classroom phone, or can this be used on the teacher's personal cell phone?
That's a great question, and that's the best part about it is no one's taking away the phone in the classroom. It's a great asset for safety. Like I said, it has the Alyssa's Law button on it. They can call the front office. They can make outbound calls. But this soft phone, they could install on their work computer, or if they feel comfortable with it, and have it set up on their personal phone, then letting them like make and receive calls for Bryan ISD calls, like officially, quote unquote, right? From their cell phone, which is great.
Sure, because a lot of their conversations would be in the evenings or.
Yeah, and that's where I think some of that transcription too can be really, really helpful. I said it was for accountability, but it also could be for like safety. I mean, who knows, you know, so.
Sure. No, this is
Yeah, that was a great question.
good.
So I also just wanted to bring up a timeline, so I feel like I don't ever want anyone to be surprised by anything that I bring to you all. So we looked at and renewed our phone system and went with the Cisco phone system in 2020 from those bond funds, as I mentioned. In 2026, or 2025 really, we started going through and looking at what the best course for a renewal would be. And we just felt that, and we determined that renewing our current Cisco phone system and renewing that back-end hardware and adding the parent square calling was the best value for Bryan ISD. It lets us reuse all of our existing phones in the district, which is great. And that renewal will be for 5 years. So both the parent square calling as well as all of the pieces tied to our Cisco phone system and emergency alerts are for 5-year terms, which means that we'll start looking at renewal options in 2030 before eventually bringing whatever the next round of this could be. Who knows? It'll probably be AI everything, right, in 2031. So does anyone have any questions regarding this renewal or any of the pieces? I'd be happy to answer them.
So if a parent blocks a teacher, it's too bad the teacher can't use the next telephone number like we all get with spam. You know, we block one number and then they call with the next number and then, you know. they
And somehow
change
it's
what-
always from your area code.
So-
I still get 903 calls for some reason.
Well, I would
Go ahead,
add that
Julie.
the phone number that they set up as their new phone number, it actually stays theirs. And so they're able
Yeah.
to give it to a parent can call it, they can set up business times where I'll accept calls during this time, but not during this time. It's a really nice, real clean,
like-
yeah. Something the teachers have been asking for.
Absolutely. That's a great question.
It'll do text as well?
It does. It
Okay.
does currently, actually, without adding the phone piece.
That's great, okay. So, you ready?
Ready when you are.
I move approval of the contracts with Rocket Consulting LLC and Parent Square in the amount of $1,682,885.72 as presented.
Second.
Motion was made by Mrs. Waller, seconded by Mrs. Benford. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 8D is to discuss and consider a proposed contract with E3 Integral Solutions. No, did I skip one? Did I? I did.
Poor Ben.
Sorry. Let me back up. 8C, discuss and consider the 25-26 budget amendment with Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Norma Friddle. Sorry about that.
This is the last item, I promise. Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight's action item is a budget amendment for the general fund. This amendment primarily recognizes the additional revenue that the district received as a result of the property value audit submitted to the state by Purdue Brandon. It also includes adjustments to several functional areas based on our year-end projected actual calculations. As we've discussed throughout the year, we closely monitor our budget to actual results to make sure that our expenditures align with the budget adopted and amended by our board. This amendment helps ensure that the appropriate budget is in place within each function as we approach year end. June 15th is our last opportunity to make any adjustments before the fiscal year ends. The purpose of this amendment is to keep the district in compliance with state budget requirements and ensure that no function exceeds its authorized budget. I'm happy to take any questions regarding the budget amendment.
I move to approve the general fund budget as presented.
Second.
Motion was made by Mr. Stasny, seconded by Mrs. Benford. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now, Deputy Superintendent Dr. Brian Merrill, Director of Construction Services Bobby Griffin, will discuss and consider a proposed contract with E3 Integral Solutions, and I'll let you do the rest.
I appreciate that. And Clay, if you'll, there we go. We're trying to close out Bond 2020, and we appreciate that. And that's a good thing when we're moving Bond 2025 items that are high priority over to the savings in 2020. So I just want to say thank you to everyone that previously that worked in construction, for the board, all of the things in the projects, and then also our third-party vendors. They did a wonderful job in bringing us a great product and under budget. So again, thank you so very much. And E3 is here tonight. I appreciate you being here, Vince, and I appreciate the relationship that we have. They are invested in this community and invested in Bryan ISD, and they've shown up time and time again, as many of our other vendors do. So we completely trust them and are thankful for the relationship and for their just involvement in our community. All right, you'll see the projects here. They're Bonham, Crockett, Houston, Johnson, and Navarro. And these were identified through our strategic planning in 2025, and they were taken to the public and voted on in the bond 2025. And so this just represents our priority maintenance through our MEPT. Again, it's roughly around $8 million, and the contract is for $8 million. Again, that's we would go out and get bids and do the entire process, but that's the contract amount. So again, Bobby, Mr. Griffin's here, a wonderful asset to the district, and we appreciate his involvement in this, and we're happy to answer any questions if you have any over these projects. Again, this has to do with equipment, potential failures. Nothing has failed at the current time, but they're just part of priority maintenance, and they'll bring efficiency to the district with our HVAC systems and the infrastructures. Again, these were identified as priority one maintenance projects in the bond 2025 facility assessment.
And this was money left over from 2020?
It was, yes, sir.
All right.
That's a great
Thank
way
you.
of putting it.
I move approval of the contract with E3 Integral, is that right? Integral Solutions to replace a chilled water, hot water piping, and Victolic. Is that right?
That's the wrong, we're getting to that one.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
That's good.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Above?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. Berg.
But we'll take that in a few minutes, Ruthie. All right,
So-
I'm gonna hold you to that.
Okay. I move that the board approve the selection of E3, here we go again, Integral Solutions Incorporated to provide engineering services for the chiller replacements at Bonham, Crockett, Houston, Johnson, and Navarro to be funded using 2020 bond funds as presented.
Second.
Motion was made by Mrs. Waller, seconded by Mrs. Benford. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes.
All right, next one we have is our mechanical piping projects. And this was something that unfortunately poked its head up the other day when one of the Vitolic, thank you, I'm learning all the
Okay,
words,
Vitolic.
couplings unfortunately failed. And that was at Jane Long, and our maintenance department did a great job of getting school up and running. Mr. Gibson and his staff did a wonderful job. But E3 came out really, I think that same day, and walked our buildings and brought us, honestly, good news. We were afraid that it was throughout the entire building. It was not. It was only in the new portion, and it wasn't even something that would have been caught in a facility assessment. And so that fitting, that coupling on the cold water pipes unfortunately failed, and the water then obviously flooded part of Jane Long. And so they came out and really did a wonderful job in going in and looking and making sure how much do we have of that, and getting us an assessment, and then also very quickly bringing us the estimate for us to be able to repair those projects. And beyond that, Mr. Griffin would be happy to answer any questions.
It's a matter of, excuse me, it's a matter of we don't know when the next failure is. We've already had 2 failures, and the reality is when it fails, it takes M&O and it takes manpower to clean up, and it interrupts school and interrupts a lot of things. So this is an opportunity to get it taken care of this summer, so we can now control the narrative so that we know that we are back together whole and won't be worried about it when we start school. It did fail literally the last week of school, and the previous one was several months ago. But when it fails, you lose a copious amount of water, your chill water, and it shuts down your system. So now you've got double trouble.
And that's aging?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
It's A lot of districts have stopped using Victaulic. We're probably going to stop using Victaulic. It's not, it's something that is used for speed and makes things very easy on the contractor, but it doesn't necessarily bode well for us. It doesn't age well. So there are definitely better ways to make sure our new systems will not use Victaulic. It's just collars and couplings.
That's good to know.
So, in layman's terms, like, what is the scope of work we're talking about here? Is this like,
You have to go in and remove the installation and drain the system, go in, remove the installation, replace all these fittings, inspect to make sure we don't have any other issues, and then put it all back together, re-insulate it, refill it, and
through the whole building?
No, this is, that, originally we were told it was through the entire building. And after E3 got in and actually started doing enough investigating, found out it was only at the two new additions.
Okay.
So it is much reduced from the original concern, but either way, it is very much worth our while to get this taken care of. If not, we're going to be playing Russian roulette next year.
And again, this is from Bond 2020 savings.
Understood. Just, I've never heard the word,
Yeah. Victaulic.
Victaulic.
Me neither.
It's basically a metal fitting that's split and a rubber gasket that it bolts on top of it and uses compression to hold it. What's happening is the sweating of the pipe has caused it to rust, and the bolt gives way, and when it does, it pops apart. Again, not something I want to see us do in the future.
Right. Thanks for the explanation. I learned something.
I move approval of the contract, excuse me, with E3 Integral Solutions to replace the chilled water, hot water piping and Victaulic couplings at Long and Rayburn Intermediate School in the amount of $1,136,704 as presented.
Second.
Motion was made by Mr. Stasny, seconded by Ms. Benford. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion passes. The board will now convene in closed session to discuss the following items as allowed by the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551.072, 551.076, 551.074, and 551.0821. No voting will take place in the closed meeting. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussion in a closed session will occur after the board reconvenes in the open meeting. The time is now 8:29 p.m. The board reconvened in open session at 9:46 PM. No action was taken in closed session. We'll move to action item number 11, consideration and possible action on bids for the sale of real property. That's 2009 State Highway 21 East.
And as permitted by law, that was discussed in closed session. I move to accept the bid from Culpeper North, the highest bid received for the purchase of the district-owned property at 2009 South Highway 21 East, State Highway 21 East, Bryan, Texas, in the amount of $375,000 as presented.
Second.
Motion was made by Mr. Stasny, seconded by Mr. Pavlis. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes. There being no further business, the meeting adjourned at 9:47 PM.